You are now entering the podcast studio of The Darkest Corners After the Postmortem, episode The Axeman of New Orleans. Welcome to The Darkest Corners After the Postmortem, the podcast that dives into the lives of some of the most fascinating, dangerous, and misunderstood outlaws in history. I'm your host, Sandra Pink, and today we're exploring the life of the Axeman of New Orleans, one of the most chilling and mysterious serial killer in American history. The Axeman of New Orleans is one of the most chilling and mysterious serial killers in American history, active between 1918 and 1919 in New Orleans, Louisiana. This unidentified figure terrorized the city, committing a series of brutal murders that remain unsolved to this day. Here's the story. The beginning of the murders, the Axeman spree, began on May 23, 1918, when Joseph Mango, a grocer, and his wife Catherine were found murdered in their home. Their throats had been slashed with a straight razor, and their heads were bashed in with an axe. A bloody stained axe was found at the scene. In the months that followed, the Axeman struck again and again, targeting primarily Italian American grocers and their families. Victims were often attacked in their sleep, and their homes showed signs of forced entry, usually through a panel in the back door. The weapon of choice was often the victim's own axe left at the scene. A pattern emerged. The attacks seemed to follow a specific eerie pattern. The victims were usually Italian American grocers or their families. The killer often used an axe or straight razor, usually found at victims' homes. The attacks were brutal, involving slashing, bludgeoning, or both. The killer did not steal valuables, suggesting the murders were not motivated by robbery. Victims included Joseph and Pauline Romano, Anne Schneider, and others. Some, like Schneider, survived the attacks, though they often remembered little due to the trauma. The letter and the jazz connection. The case took an even more bizarre turn on March 13, 1919, when a letter reportedly from the Axeman was published in local newspapers. Written in a mocking tone, it claimed that he was a demon from hell who loved jazz music. The letter included a chilling ultimatum. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing. I am going to make a little visit to your city at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night. On the specific night, the city erupted in jazz music as residents hosted parties and played music in their homes. No murders occurred that evening. Fear and uncertainty. The Axeman's identity was never discovered, and his motives remain a mystery. The killings ceased in October 1919, as abruptly as they had begun. Theories about the Axeman's identity included mafia ties. Some speculate the murders were linked to organized crime or vendettas targeting Italian American grocers. Psycho issues. The Axeman may have been a deranged individual acting on irrational impulses. A phantom figure. Given the Axeman's ability to evade capture, some treated him as a near mythical figure. The legacy and culture impact. The Axeman of New Orleans left a lasting impression on popular culture. His crimes have been the subject of books, documentaries, and even episodes of TV shows like American Horror Story, Coven. The Jazz Ultimatum also fueled legends about the mysterious relationship between the killer and music. While the Axeman's true identity will likely never be known, his reign of terror remains a chilling chapter in the history of New Orleans. Today, we look back at the Axeman of New Orleans' life with horror, but we also have to ask ourselves what conditions allowed this to happen, and could it ever happen again? Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Axeman of New Orleans. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and join me next time as we explore the lives of more extraordinary outlaws here at the podcast studio of The Darkest Corners after the postmortem. Until next time, remember, the darkest stories are often hidden just beneath the surface.